Hey there YouTube, Rain here. Um, I'm going to be going over the Abzan review, and I think green is the color that's left. Um, I did a Timur video and it's just not uploaded yet. I was very tired at the time, so I said some things that I just basically have to redo this video. Um, that's it. I'll get to it right now. I'm very excited about Abzan. Ascendancy. This card reminds me a lot of Spirit Bonds, at least the second ability does, back in M15. Spirit Bonds killed you a lot faster though, but this costs no mana to do. The first ability is great, it has so many synergies and is just a fine ability on its own. This card is an incredible bomb. And now 4.5 says incredible bomb. I'm gonna go 4.5. Wow, yeah, cool. Dang, I hit that pretty well. Abzan Charm, 3 mana, very good removal, synergy with the clan, um, like a combat trick if you need it to be, and if you need to hit your land drops, I suppose you can draw 2 cards, lose 2 life, but dang, this is the best charm. If Mardu Charm was a 3/5, and this is a 4/0, I might be pushing it, and it's probably a 3/5, but you know what? This card does everything for 3. Holy crap, okay. I did not look at these ratings. I'm a little surprised I got 2 for 2, but hey, these cards are good. Alright, there's a reason I'm playing Abzan in the pre-release, by the way, in case any of you were wondering. Abzan Guide? This guy's pretty solid. 4/4 lifelink that flips up on 5 can get you not behind from situations that you normally would be behind in. Um, perfectly reasonable body, decent ability, and a card I'm pretty happy to have. So 3.0, and the sort of like, I will play multiples of them and I'll be happy that I am. Nice. Anafenza, 3 mana 4/4 with upside, has some synergies with the clan, has a little bit of random upside to make Delve a little worse. So 4.0, just as a 3 mana 4/4, it would already be about there, and it has even more upside. It might be 4.5. No, it's a 4.0. Cool. So that's 4 for 4. Alright, I'm back on my groove. Armament Core, I think this is a pretty solid 3/5. It's a 5 mana 6/6 with upside. That's a great place to be just to start out a card. It's like Supply Line Cranes. That card was great as a 5 mana 2/4 that put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you controlled. It was basically like a 3/5 flyer with upside. This is the same. It can have some synergies with some of the Abzan Outlast cards that give abilities, and it's just an amazing card. Very cost efficient, very powerful. Not a surprise. Dune Blast. I'm gonna say this is a 4/0, and I'm saying that because this effect is really powerful. Like, unbelievably powerful, and getting to turn 7, getting to 7 lands, I've found even in the aggressive games, people get to 7 lands. So this is going to get cast every game. Like, for instance, in Garrick's Wake, nobody's denying that it's powerful, but it just wasn't the format for it. Games are ending before that could be cast reliably. Games will not be ending before this can be cast reliably, and it will do amazing things to the board. 4/0, absolutely great card. 4-5. Huh. I want to read what he likes about this. Yeah. I think this is closer to a 4 than a 4-5, but it's definitely like a card you just play and you take over the game. Fortress. This guy is great. In some decks he's insane. In some decks he's just a very, very, very cost-efficient creature with a not irrelevant upside in pretty much every deck. I'm giving this a 4-0. 5 mana 5/7s are incredibly hard to attack into, giving you time to outlast your guys. He takes out the decision of, do I block with my outlast guy or do I outlast my guy? Make it bigger? He just says, oh, you can do both. So, very happy with this. Alright. Yeah, well, that's fair. Kentry Invocation. Been playing the format more. I have had the privilege of playing this card once when I had a War Behemoth on the board, and that was fun. 2 mana 6/6s were pretty sweet. Given how much of a skew there is to toughness in a lot of decks, this card is pretty nuts. The worst you're going to get for the steal is, well, you don't have creatures and this is just dead, but more often than not, you'll have a creature or two, and this guy will be like a 2 mana 4/4 that comes down around like turn 5 or 6. But hey, that's still a great card. I'm very, very pleased with this. 3-0. It's a great card, but its vulnerability to being behind and not having creatures just sets it a little too far back. And this guy works well with random morphs. Like that 1/5 flyer that you flip up on turn 4, then turn 5 you play a 5/5 for 2 mana and then do something with the other 3 mana. I suppose it's a little bit dependent on the bodies in your deck, but this seems very good. Siege Rhino. 4 mana, 4/5 trample that swings for 3 when he comes in, and you gain 3. This can help you. This guy is so good at slowing down a game. Like, you drop him on turn 4, nothing's getting through this for the next few turns, certainly. And you get to equalize life totals if they're rushing you down. Also, since nothing's as big as it and it has trample, you can start going through, going to town. This is a very, very great card. And I'm gonna say it's a 3/5 compared to Ivory Tusk. I think they're about the same. 4/5. Okay, it depends on the deck. Ivory Tusk is a 4/5 in the right deck, and I just happen to play this when I have the right deck. Yeah, Siege Rhino is amazing. Yeah, I'll agree with this 4/5. I've played with it once. I played with this, Abzan Ascendancy, Falconer, and I did an extra round after the recorded round in which I did get the Falconer out and give the Rhino flying, and that was nuts. It was so much fun. So much fun. Grizzly, I don't like this card at all. 2 toughness is a serious hindrance on a 3-drop. Trading with a morph guy while not being a morph guy, not getting that mid-range fat body, is just miserable. He enables Ferocious, but that's not enough to make this card good. 2.0, simply because if you have a low creature count, you can do worse. The 3 slot for me, from what I've seen, is just so clogged with banners and better morph creatures than this. And you're just not going to want to screw up your curve by playing like 2 banners, 4 morph creatures, maybe like 5 morph creatures, and this. This will just be cut so often. So I get what he's saying, it never ever makes my deck. And usually I sort it out just because of this, all the negative things that are going for it in this set, which are very high amounts of things. Parapet, if your deck is slow, this card should be okay. Mostly you're just playing it to get to the later points in the game. It doesn't kill anything, it just says you can randomly get some incremental value out of your guy who's just trying to keep you alive. 1.5. I don't like the 0 power, I don't like defenders on them as a whole. Yeah, it's about what I said. Awaken the Bear. Well, I was less of a fan of this card before than I am now. What do I say about this? I got blown out pretty hard by this. Somebody was playing a Temur deck. They played Awaken the Bear on their guy to kill my something. I think it was like a... No, I don't remember. But he also pumped his other creature with prowess, and like, if you can get a Temur deck, red and white are both colors that have prowess creatures. So this can go off pretty hard in some Temur decks. That said, it's a pretty average combat trick, and combat tricks aren't great as a whole. .0. There are so many better combat tricks in this format. I'm not going to be playing this half the time, but I won't be too depressed to play one of them some of the time. It gets trampled too. That's something I didn't read, honestly. Okay, yeah, that does pump it up to 2.5. I thought this was just +3/+3. Trample isn't the most relevant, but it's still an upside that makes this card good. Become Immense. I am forever salty about this card. Forever salty. Being at 9 life and having a Mystic swing at you and being like, okay, I'm going to win next turn. Nope, Become Immense. Yay! I just single-handedly lost to a Mystic attacking me 3 turns, and then right as I was about to outrace him, you played Become Immense. But as a whole, if I'm playing 1 or 2 Delve cards for value, this is not what I want to play for value. Combat tricks are situational, and if you can't play this in the situation that you need it in, it's just not good. It'll be stuck in your hand, and then like your creatures will die, and then you'll be like, it's too late for this. Some decks like it though. So 1.5 or 2.0, it is a powerful effect. So it might go up to 2.5. This one's hard. I just think there are so many better quality Delve cards. I have to give this a 2-0. Mm-hmm. Dragon Scale Boom. I was just watching the Community Cup with Day 9 playing against, I don't remember his name, but he was running like 5 color or something or other. And Day 9 had an Anok Bondkin, and oh boy, does this card work with that card. And are they both commons? Yes, they are both commons. Merry Christmas. Like, giving your guy 2+1/+1 counters and first strike and untapping it for 4 can be insane. It can also work with some other Outlast abilities like Reach, Death Touch. Death Touch isn't so good because you're making your guy bigger already, but it can be good in some situations. Trample, like this card goes off with a lot of Outlast cards and is just a solid combat trick altogether. 2.5. Next, Feed the Clan, 0.5. Yep. Like, I came across the only matchup where you do side this in as a control deck with not a lot of removal. Well, I wasn't a control deck. As a deck that ended up in a racing situation with a Mystic that didn't have very many ways to deal with the Mystic. This would be like the only time to side that in. And, oh, Mystic, by the way, is the 3/2 that can't be blocked. But even then, it's just not a great sideboard card. Cards that gain you life are notoriously awful and limited. Hardened Scales, I'm a fan of this card. If you have 7 or more ways to put counters on your guys, play it. If you don't, I'd be much more reluctant to play it. But doubling the power of your Outlast, um, doubling the power of certain combat tricks like Feat of Resistance, and getting a little more value off a Dragon Scale boon since it doesn't actually double, it just increases by 1. But this can be great in some decks. In other decks, they just don't want it. As I said, magic number 7 is typically what I aim for. But in that deck, I think it's a 3-0. In other decks, I think it goes down to like a don't play it. Outlast isn't really a win more mechanic. It's a late game I need to scale mechanic, and scaling faster can help in some decks. I do agree that a lot of decks this is a 1.0. I just do think there's a time and a place for this card. Heir of the Wilds. Now this is a card that we will both rate highly. 2 mana, 2/2 Death Touch. Awesome. When it swings, if you have a creature with power 4 or greater, he's actually doing a considerable amount of damage. Awesome. 3.5, upper end of 3.5. This card is amazing. Let me read this. How do you get this to a 4/4? Well, if you put a counter on it, I suppose. Or like Dragon Scale Bin, that's pretty cool. Highland game. You know, I have to apologize. In a lot of my videos, I just threw this card out. But barriers are pretty king in this format. Like, what I've found is if you play a 2-drop and they don't have a 2-drop, they just have morph guys, you can get through very easily for 6 damage. Or trade for a morph guy. giving this upside in addition to just 2 power for 2 mana is pretty good in some decks. I'm going to have to give this a 2/5. 2 mana, 2 power cards are just really important, and getting something else for it's nice. Hooded Hydra, 4.5. Removal doesn't deal with it. It's an absolutely terrifying card to go into the late game knowing your opponent has this and they're on like 10 lands. That's just insane. And morphing this turn 3 and flipping it up turn 5, getting a 5/5 that when it dies you get 5 snakes. Great. And even one more thing is the fact that +1/+1 counters can give this card additional abilities. Yes. 4.5. Very, very balmy. Well, if you're doing x equals 1, you can just morph it. I'm sticking to my 4/5. The combinations of powerhouse effects that this can get in Abzan decks just makes it even better than just a 4/0. Hooting Mandrills, card I went over, and generally like how much am I willing to pay for this, and 4 or 5 mana only requires 1 or 2 cards being exiled to play this card, so it's very, very, very solid. It's just a nice creature to have in all your decks. It's nothing insane, but it's solid. 3/0. Cool. Incremental growth. Alright, this effect is undoubtedly powerful. +1/+1 counters, you can get some synergies if you have an incremental growth, and you can say, oh man, that 1.0 on that, where is it? I know it's here somewhere. Hardened Scales plus incremental growth, you're going insane. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature, put 3 on another, and 4 on a third. What? Oh my god. That said, you need 3 creatures. This is not a May ability. 3/0. It's a really powerful effect, but its downsides are very clear. Oh my god, that's a card. Yep. It is a consideration, though. Kin Tree Warden. It's a little slow, but some decks are fine with that. You're really not morphing this guy very often, unless you're like really far ahead and you just need a 2/2 body. So 2.0. Jeez. If you have ways to pump this, I suppose it goes up into this range, but I don't think this is auto-include. I have personal reasons to get into later about why making this a very relevant part of the card is something I don't like. It may just be me getting tired again, or it may just be me still being a little upset that he said Sagu Muller was a 3.5. And this is a 3.0. Uncomparable. But you know what? This might deserve a 2/5. Longshot Squad, this card is great. It is fantastic. 4 mana for a 3/3, sign me up already. Outlast at a pretty cheap cost to give all your creatures reach. Jeez. Suddenly your deck has like no trouble at all dealing with flyers. Great, great card. 3.5. This is one of the least affecting Outlast cards that if they remove it mid-combat, you're just going to be like, well, shit. Your creature's not having reach just means that you'll take damage for a turn before you like realize the situation, rather than losing creatures. Yep. Meandering Tower Shell. Thinking between 2.0 and 2.5. I'm going with 2.5. This card does very well with fight cards, much like the red creature that has to sacrifice itself if it attacks or blocks, but has naturally higher stats. So if you're playing cards like Swift Kick and Savage Punch, this card can do some work. It's just going to beat everything in a fight. It's miserable at attacking. Even if they have islands, 2.5 evasion for 5 mana is not efficient on anybody's scale. And last but not least, he clogs the ground. He's a good blocker. So 2.5. In some decks he can be a 3.0 though, if you have like 2 Savage Punches and like a Swift Kick. No. No. Pressing an advantage is something you might need to do, and this does not press jack shit. It's so slow at attacking. 2.5 damage a turn. Mystic has 3 damage a turn. And it always has that. They don't even have to have islands. Sure, this is better on defense, but that's the accreditation I give to it, is this card is good on defense, and this card is good with fighting cards. I will not say it gets there eventually. Naturalize 1.0, it's a fine sideboard card. Pine Walker, this card is great. 5 mana, 5/5 in 1 color is a little unprecedented in this format. You don't have to morph it up or anything, but even if you want to, you can just drop this guy down on morph. He's not hard to cast because he could require 1 green instead of 2 green, and when you flip him up, you get to untap him. So you attack in with your hidden morph guy, they block with their creature, you flip this guy up, you untap it so it can block, you kill their creature, they take their turn, they can't attack into you because you just played a 5/5. This card is great. 3.5. I like this card enough to say 3.5. Mystic, very, very good. Most likely you're playing this on 2 mana. It's not usually worth morphing this, but when you're playing it on 2 mana, it acts as an accelerant to help you flip over your morph guys and get into the mid-late points of the game, where you can overrun your opponent or overwhelm them. He fixes 3 colors of mana, which is very notable, and he is a 2-power body, so that can come into play occasionally. 3.0. Okay. 0.5s I won't make a big deal out of. I'm not gonna lie, I still don't know how good this card is. I have no freaking idea. I think it's bad though. Yeah. Sagu Archer, this card's been pretty impressive. A lot of flyers in this format have 4 or less power and 2 or less toughness. And this card just excels in that, dealing with those cards. On turn 5 you flip this up, block their flyer, just kill it. Pretty solid. 3.0. Savage Punch. This is great removal. It costs 2 mana, which I don't think any green fighting card has ever cost 2 mana. And if you get Ferocious off, you can play this main phase 1, kill their only blocker, get through a lot of damage. Play this later on in your turn, kill their main attacker, suddenly the combat that they were planning out for their next turn just isn't there anymore. But all in all, this is just removal in the way that green gets removal, and at 2 mana and at common. 3.5. Art is 5.0, flavor is 5.0, and limited is 3.5. I agree with everything here. Scout the borders. If the blue one is, I don't remember what it's called, the one that looks at the top 5 and you have to put them all in your graveyard or on top, this one is much better than that. You're paying 1 extra mana, but you get to put one of the cards in your hand. Very solid. Could be just a fine addition to any deck, but especially for Delve decks. 2.5. Jeez, 1.5? He thinks this is... This doesn't improve your card quality. This is not what this card does. This card, you actually get a card back for it. So this improves your card quality and cantrips you. And helps you hit your land drops. I think it's more than a 1.5. I can see it being a 2.0, but not a 1.5. See the Unwritten. You see that Temur watermark? This is not a Temur card. This is a Sultai card, enabling Delve incredibly well. Getting a 2-for-1 pretty easily if you get a creature with power 4 or greater. And a lot of Delve creatures are overcosted, and you won't have to worry about paying their Delve because you just cheat them right into play. In Delve decks, I want to give this a 3.5 because it's slow, even if it is amazing. And in non-Delve decks, I think I'd give this a 3.0. This is my fault, by the way. I'm not... This is true. This is a very true statement. However, in Delve decks, I do think I'm sticking to this 3.5. Putting 6 or 7 cards in your graveyard is great. You're pretty reliably going to be getting a creature in those 8 cards that has Delve, like Shambling Attendants, that costs 8 for a 3.5. You don't have to worry about delving it. You just go, hey, right in play. Seek the Horizon. This was one I wanted to test, however, I've tested it and it's not good. Okay. Smoke Sheller, this card is great. If it was just a bear, it would be very good, because bears are very good in this format. But it also has like a nice random upside, so I appreciate this card. 3.0. Sultai Flayer, it's like a hill giant with an extra toughness. It works with itself, so it dies, you gain 4 life, and it has like a nice little incremental upside for some other creatures that you have too. This card is great. Somewhere between a 3-0 and a 3-5. Temura Charger, reprinting a Resco Swiftclaw. Oh, Wizards, you will keep doing this for the rest of time until the creature body becomes a 4/1 for 2 mana. Because we have to stop the power creep of spells. Anyway, past that rant, I'm a blue player if you couldn't tell. This card is very, very solid. Has some upside in the late game. If bears get through early, imagine what this guy gets through early. 3.5. Yeah, okay. I suppose it is pretty weak to tokens though, and cards like Arc Lightning. Trail of Mystery, not a fan. Some decks can use it, most decks will not. Yep, that's pretty much what 1.5 means. Tuscalocedon, I hate this card. It's miserable. Even Volpine Goliath gave Trample. There's no reason this card should not have Trample, and without Trample, it's unplayable. Tuskguard Captain, yay! I love this card. Okay, I saw the rating, but that's the rating I'd give this card for sure. 3 mana, 2/3s, already a huge fan of. Outlast for the cheap, and giving your creatures with 1/1 counters Trample is nice. It just works well, making your creatures bigger and giving them Trample. Logic. Yeah, definitely a 3.5. Windstorm, sideboard card, but can be a good sideboard card. Woolly Lockstone, this card is great. Great card. Never, ever, ever been disappointed with this card. 3.0. Oh, sorry. Top 5 commons. This one's also going to be hard. Did I spell that wrong? Yeah, there's 2 O's in wool. I shrink the screen a little. Woolly Lockstone might make it on that list. Smoke Teller is great. Savage Punch is making the list for sure. Sagu Archer might, but might not. Excuse me. Longshot Squad is definitely making the list. Mandrills versus Sagu Archer. Largely depends on the deck, but I think Mandrills barely edges out the Sagu Archer. Highland Game's decent, but not top 5. This card's pretty good. Alright, here are my top 5 commons. Now I just gotta determine the order. Savage Punch is number 1. Longshot Squad is number 2. Lockston, number 3. Am I underestimating Smoke Teller? This is very solid common. I'm just of the opinion there are enough ways to replace him, even if he's the best at what he does isn't too uncommon. Versus Savage Punch, there's nothing else that does that as well. Longshot Squad, nothing else that does that as well. Lockston, there is no morph creature that is just so mid-range and fat as Lockston. Last is Hooting Mandrills. Alright, let's see how my list compares. Alright, Saku Archer made the list. Not a big surprise. Mandrills made the list, Punch made the list, Smoke Teller made the list. Loxodon did not make the list. Archer made the list over Loxodon. I'm sticking to Loxodon. This card has been amazing for me. It's just outperformed Saku Archer in every situation I've had it. And I've had them both before, quite a few times. So that's my top 5 list. Did he have any particular order for these? No. But I would have to assume it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which makes sense. I could see these two being swapped orders. Alright, thank you very much for watching. That's Abzan in green. And what a way to end it, because I can't wait to play my Abzan deck this weekend. Yeah.